Welcome back to another episode of Green Disruptors Scaling the Future, the podcast where we spotlight innovators building a cleaner, healthier future. Today I'm joined by Barry Westbrook, founder of DocAir, a company that's been tackling one of the most overlooked but essential parts of sustainability, indoor air quality. From homes to commercial spaces, DocAir specializes in building science, ventilation, diagnostics that ensure the air we breathe is safe, clean, and optimized for human health and productivity. Barry's journey from farm life in Kentucky to becoming a building scientist and industry leader is both fascinating and inspiring. So I hope you enjoy. Thanks. Welcome to Green Disruptors, Barry.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, we had like a lot of technical difficulty more than is normal, so this feels like a real victory right now.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, we're doing it. So, tell us about a little bit about your personal background, and then we'll get into doc.
Well, I don't know how far back you want to go, but I grew up on a farm in Kentucky. So that was, and then I went off to college and was kind of a science and math guy. At least that's the way I fancied myself. And ultimately became a project or process engineer for Rockwell International. I've been a home builder and a construction superintendent, a master plumber. So I've done a little everything. When you work on a farm, that kind of helps you think about doing lots of different things.
I
And
imagine.
yeah. And then ultimately, I moved to Nashville back in 1987 and went to work for an environmental consulting firm. And so I got into the environmental business and kind of pursued my education and credential development and became a certified industrial hygienist and professional engineer. Kind of grew up in the company and became one of the principals in just before about 2000. We sold the company. Then I basically was saying, okay, now what am I going to do? And so what I decided to do was number one, get married about the same time as I started Doc Air. So I got a lot of things going at the same time. And so I've been with Doc Air ever since then. So it's what, 22, 23 years.
Yeah.
And we've evolved to do a lot of different things. So that's where we are today.
So I love the company name because it tells what you do right in the name, which is very smart. But give us a detail of like what problems you're solving for your customers.
Well, I think the particular area of expertise we have is understanding the physics of air quality. One of the ironies in our business is you hear the term HVAC all the time, and people talk about HVAC guys and all that. Interestingly enough, there's most buildings there is no V except natural, what we call natural ventilation, which means air leaks in and air leaks out. And
Mm,
very few people in the HVAC business, at least it's been my experience, really know much about ventilation. So that's kind of where we came from, being a certified industrial hygienist, air quality and being able to assess out air quality is kind of our bullseye, I suppose. And so that's kind of where we got into the HVAC business because if you're trying to fix air quality in a building, over 50% of the time, according to, I think, OSHA, you have to do something with the HVAC system to solve the problems. So it's hard not to be in the HVAC business if you're going to be in the air quality business.
that
So
makes
we
sense.
so we test air quality, uh, but really we test for the purpose of characterizing the air quality and also trying to determine how to make it better.
Yeah, I imagine you had a boom during COVID.
Well, there was a lot of interest. I mean, I think that people kept saying, "Oh, you're going to make, this is going to be the thing you've been looking for." But it's really hard to stop doing what you're doing. And
Yeah,
COVID, it seemed like it lasted for a long time, but it really didn't last long enough for us to. Uh,
for
I
people
mean,
to
I would
want to
have.
make a serious change to their system.
Well, that's true. One of the things that we saw, I do a lot of work with respirators and respiratory, respirator fit testing and that kind of thing. And I knew at the time that all of the emphasis on masks was really misplaced. But what we really could have done is we could have been working on ventilation. That might have really had an effect. But it's really hard to get that message out, especially when you're trying to get through all the noise. Um, so anyway, but you're right. I think that it certainly brought more attention to air quality, and
Yeah.
and I think it kind of stayed. people I think are still more sensitive and they don't really know exactly how to get good air, but they want it.
Yeah. I never thought about it, which is ironic because I'm from Salt Lake City and we used to get really terrible winter inversion from pollution. It's still a problem, but it's not as bad as it was 10 years ago. But I lived in Washington State for a while and there was severe wildfire issues. So we would go for days, sometimes weeks, with unbreathable air outside, like you had to stay in. So, like, I really had never thought about air quality before that, but it's like, oh, this is a very serious problem that people, they can have really serious health problems or die if it's not solved. So, what do you see as maybe the consequences of not caring about this?
Well, I think a part of it is people just don't know where their air comes from. I mean, when you
Mm-hmm.
ask many years ago when I first started DocAir, I thought we should be partnering with the allergists. I thought, what would
Mm.
be a better group of people for us to work with hand in glove? And I couldn't seem to get any traction. I even, my wife was in a choir with one of the head allergy people here in Nashville. And so she said, well, I can get you a lunch meeting with this gentleman. And I said, go for it. And so I met with him and he was interested in what I had to say. But what I found out was, even though he was a very knowledgeable and experienced physician, he really didn't understand how buildings work. So it was a long kind of a haul to try to figure out how to explain to him where air comes in a building, because the word ventilation is a word I use all the time, but I realize that that can be misleading. What ventilation means. What I really mean by that is, how do you get fresh outside air into a building? That's what I really mean. And I've gotten to where I use the word ventilation so much, I think that what I think it means is what people hear, but maybe that's not the case.
So who is your ideal customer and like what I mean, are you looking for like huge commercial type projects? Or are you working residential or kind of a mix of both?
A mix of both. Where I see the opportunity is most residential homes in this country do not have a ventilation system. They're called naturally ventilated.
Open a window.
Crack a window is the way we used to say it. The new building codes, I mean, we're building buildings more tightly and we want to. We're going, we got better door seals and window seals, and we don't want to have a bunch of unintended leaks in the building envelope. But then when you think about the ultimate extreme, you could build a house out of, say, Tupperware, for example. And you say, well, if I snap the top on that, put people in it, you know, where are they going to get fresh air? And that's the kind of the metaphor that I use a lot of times to explain it. It interestingly, when I was a child, we would go out and collect lightning bugs in the summertime. And I remember one of the first things that I was taught, probably at 4 years old, was when you get your jar and there's a metal top on it, poke, 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 poke holes. And I thought, we knew about ventilation at 4 years old.
Yeah.
But then what's happened is we've never really thought that much about ventilation, and we've always, we if you think about it, we really haven't had central heat and air conditioning for that long.
No,
You know,
that's so true. Yeah.
so that's the challenge and the opportunity. I mean, sometimes it's frustrating, but what we kind of see Doc Air's role is being able to go into mainly existing buildings and retrofit them so that they do have a ventilation system. So that's kind of where excuse me, I got
You're
a
good.
call coming in. Yeah. So as we get the word out and people start to understand that, I think that there's a great opportunity with a focus on customer education. I think that's our biggest challenge.
Well, that was going to be my next question because like how do you make people care enough to make the investment into these upgrades?
Well, people are motivated by different things. A lot of times it's family members. A lot of times parents, their children, or a spouse is concerned about the spouse. So the story we'll hear is people will focus on things like crawl spaces, and they'll say, I don't, I'm worried about mold. And to me, it's kind of ironic because I'm thinking, if you have a ventilation system, we could make sure that that is taken care of. But
Right.
but the focus is on things that you can see. and somebody sees mold growth on on a piece of wood or something, they can get alarmed about that when that may be minimal risk by that particular thing. Unfortunately, I deal in a world of invisible things, radon, mold
Mm,
spores, water vapor. So it's difficult, pressurization, whether the building is positively or negatively pressurized. It's a challenge to try to explain things that are essentially invisible. You have to figure out a way to show, how that thing affects your health or your comfort. And so we just keep trying. I do seminars, training seminars for real estate professionals. That's been good for us.
mm,
It
smart.
gives you a chance to kind of go through some of this and explain it. I think it's interesting. I think the realtors tell me that they always get a lot out of it. I've had several realtors that have come two or three, four, seminars, and they say they always get something out of it. But um, I mean, right now I'm looking at how can we do a better job of marketing. Search engine optimization is certainly one, but I think as I look at something every day, I use terminology and I think about things in a way that may get a little stale.
Yeah.
I'm looking to figure out how are other people seeing their building? What do they think? Where do they think their air comes from? Do they understand ventilation at all? So anyway, it's uh, it's exciting. I mean, I've always been interested in trying to develop business opportunities. This is certainly a big deal. I mean, I can't think of
Yeah.
anything more important than the air you breathe.
Well, that's one of those things that you again, like it's like the smoke in the air. It's like you don't think about it unless it's a problem. And it's not an immediate problem for a lot of people. So I can definitely see the challenge there. Or it's like they don't realize that it's a problem. But I was wondering, like, since you've been around for a while, what do you feel like has changed as far as, you know, the marketing and the messaging, and the way that you're able to connect with potential customers now, as opposed to maybe 10 years ago?
Well, the way that I personally want to connect with customers, and it's one of our core values, which is science before sales. And unfortunately, what I'm seeing is there's so much of a focus on trying to figure out how to extract revenue from customers. Sometimes the science gets way pushed way in the back, and people are buying things that are not really what they need.
Right.
So we're kind of we try to be the white horse guys, and the way I look at it, there's plenty of things we could sell somebody, but I want to sell them something they need. I don't want to just sell them something that's easy, but is really not going to make a difference in what they do.
Yeah.
So that's what I see a lot of, and especially in the HVAC business, there are a lot of companies being bought up by bigger companies, and the goal is to have the client list and go in there and send in. We call our people diagnosticians because our goal is to go out and diagnose the problem. Unfortunately, there's more of a focus on sales,
Right.
and I don't know what to do about that. I mean, money talks, and when there's enough money at stake, people are going to focus on that. But anyway, we're the alternative. What I'd like to be is the person or the company that people call when they're serious about things and they want things right, and they
Yeah.
want our business in the real estate industry has been based on getting their trust that they know that we're going to shoot them straight and we're not going to just
Yeah.
try. Yeah.
Well, I like what you said about science before sales. And I think you could put a little bracket before science that says relationships or trust before the science. Because, yeah, if you don't have that to begin with, I don't think people are even open to the science. And I mean, I know how I am. It's like if people are trying to sell me something, like, even if it's great, I'm like, no. You're just like, get out of my face. So, yeah, you're
Well,
speaking my language.
yeah, it's more of a teaching thing. When I go into someone's home, I'm trying to show them things that I think are consequential that they need to know. Sometimes it's really easy things that I can
Yeah.
tell them what makes a difference. And people are really like, wow, I didn't know that. And so that's a great feeling to do that. Like for instance, when you were talking about those inversion problems with one, we have a product we call Proof Positive. And essentially what we do is we want to be in charge of the new air coming into your building. So we have the outside air goes across a HEPA filter before it ever goes into your building. So it's a little bit analogous to the concept of an operating room where they have a 100% outside air. We're basically trying to bring air in that's clean to begin with, and then we pressurize the building so we could isolate you from that smoke that's out there in that inversion layer. So those are just some of the tools. One of the tools that we use to try to get the job done.
Yeah. This is maybe too broad of a question, but is there a problem that you see more than any other that you just kind of go, oh, I can't believe this is still the case?
Well, one that's growing is the I'm going to call it phobia about mold. I think that it probably comes from our education. When you're a child, you learn about germs, and you learn that one germ could possibly give you a disease. And so I think that people think about mold as a disease, and that's not really the case. I mean, mold can have an effect on your body, but mold is out. I mean, mold spores are everywhere. And the question is really what's causing the mold spores to grow in your house? So we focus on moisture management. And if you control the moisture, you really can control the mold. Um, but I think that there are a lot of people that feel like that mold is some kind of a disease. It's kind of hiding in their wall cavities. And if you're not careful, it'll come out and get you. Um,
But
so
probably the more realistic assessment is to maintain your building integrity, you need to manage the moisture because that's going to
absolutely.
probably be the bigger problem than you getting attacked by mold.
Right. And we happen to be in a place, Middle Tennessee is in the summertime, like right now, it might as well be Miami. Uh, it's just incredibly humid. And if you've ever going to have a moisture problem, so, we're seeing, I'm working on one where there's a boot factory. It's got mold, on their boots, and we got cloth factories. They've got mold on their cloth
Mm,
and
yeah,
then nursing homes and other places. So, um, and then when October, what's interesting is we make a big deal about some of these things. Home inspectors will make a big deal about a moisture problem they see in a crawl space, for instance. But then in
right.
October, it goes away. So the same house is a big deal in July, and then October, nobody mentions it.
Yeah,
Same house.
interesting. So, do you think is there an ROI story for a lot of these big commercial clients when it comes to improving their systems?
Well, I think so. I mean, back in the days when we first started DocAir, we would kind of wave our hands and talk about if you can improve the air quality in your building, that you're going to have less absenteeism and better
Mm,
productivity, all that. But there was a lot of hand waving. It's like, well, prove
sure.
it. Because
Yeah.
what I know for sure is you're going to charge me to go do those things. So show me how that it's paid for. But now we have in the recent years, we've got testing that's been done that showed that we actually are able to test employees in an office environment and show how they perform with different levels of exposure to things like carbon dioxide, which is
Wow.
and volatile organic compounds and all that. And what they found is it's certain that in these double blind studies that the performance and attention of these office employees went down like 15%.
Wow.
So if you
Yeah.
think about it, if you're in an office environment and you're wanting your people to be at peak productivity, if somebody just says you're going to drop their productivity by 15%, now we're
I'm going to
talking
be pretty concerned.
real
Yeah.
numbers. Yeah,
Hmm.
that's real money.
Well, an employee cost is among the highest costs for businesses and the most expensive thing to turn over and to train and hire. So, like, that's extremely relevant. So, I think that seems like a smart angle.
Yeah, I
Mhm.
think so. I mean, and I think employees appreciate it when you're concerned about their health and things like their air quality and things like that. I think that it gives them a sense of well-being that you don't have otherwise.
Absolutely. I mean, this is a silly example, but I used to work for a company that ordered really nice bottled water. And that was like a small thing, but I'm like, man, I get the best water of my day when I'm at work. And it was, it's like little stuff like that makes a difference to overall wellness. So that's cool. So maybe, oh, go ahead.
No, I'm listening.
Oh, I was just going to say maybe to kind of veer us toward the end of the conversation here. What's what's the next year looking like for you guys? What's some of your big goals and some things you're hoping to accomplish?
Well, one of my main goals that we're working on right now is I'm hoping to bring in kind of the next generation of management, uh, and be able to take some of this knowledge and experience that I've acquired over the years, and not just shut down and leave it behind. I'd like to be able to help bring up another generation of building scientists. That's kind of the way I think of ourselves, as building scientists. Um, but that's what we're working on right now, and continue to to look for opportunities. I mean, we've got technologies right now. We have a gentleman from that's down here visiting from Canada, and he is helping us implement a system for essentially high efficiency dehumidification. That's kind of a better mousetrap kind of opportunity. So we're working on that. We're always interested in finding better ways of doing things. So I don't know. I'm kind of one of those people that just keeps putting one foot in front of the other, looking for looking for the light.
Yeah.
So, but this year will be probably a year of transition as far as our management, and I'm going to be trying to pass the baton to others as much as possible, and kind of focus my time on doing more diagnostic work.
Is that the part of it you love the most?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I imagine the air doctor himself.
Well, I also enjoy the interaction with people.
Yeah.
Whether it's a residential client or a business client, when I meet them, everybody's got a story. People have pets, they have children, they have stories to tell, and all that. So it's really kind of like, uh, every new customer is kind of like a novelette that you get to read,
Yeah.
and I enjoy that.
Yeah, same. I love hearing the backstory and it's everybody's an interesting conglomeration of their history and the people they're connected with. So I love that. Well, thank you for coming on today. This has been a pleasure. You've definitely educated me, and now I'm gonna start analyzing the ventilation in my house and seeing if it exists. It
All right.
probably doesn't, let's be honest.
Yeah.
So if people want to learn more about you, where's the best way to find you?
Well, hopefully they can find us on the internet with DocAir.com. That's our And then, I have an email, bwestbrook@docair.com. It's pretty simple. And yeah, if they have questions, they can email me or call or whatever. I'll be glad to hear from them and see if I can help them. I do occasionally help people that are in other states that stumble on us from one reason or the next. And it's fun to be able to help somebody somewhere. Even if it's not a paying customer, it's still rewarding.
Well, and I always like to think of the analogy of planting seeds. It's like any value you can add and service you can provide anywhere. I think it comes back to you one way or another. So I think
I
that's
like
great.
to think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks again, Barry. It's been fun.
Thank you, Megan. Appreciate
Yep.
it.
Yep. Big thank you to Barry for joining us on Green Disruptors today. His commitment to science before sales and DocAir's mission to create healthier buildings is a reminder that clean air is not just a comfort, it's a necessity. If you'd like to learn more, visit docair.com or reach out to Barry directly at bwestbrook@docair.com. And as always, if you enjoyed today's conversation, subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with someone who cares about healthier homes, workplaces, and communities. We'll see you next time.